Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks for taking the time to chat. Look, I'm interested, as you know, in gathering our thoughts and feelings around professional development. I guess one thing that I'm interested in capturing is your thoughts about how you approach planning for your learning. How do you determine what you're going to learn?
Well, I suppose there are several different types of learning that I come across during the year. One of them is planned learning. So, and I sort of regard those as projects. So, if I've got a project that I'm looking at getting into, and it may be something like delivering a new service to some of our patients. Examples in the past have included wanting to get one of our practice nurses to go and do home assessments of the elderly. Mm-hmm. So that involved a bit of background reading, looking at the evidence behind this sort of thing, putting together a training session with our geriatrician, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, and structuring sort of like a service development activity, which involved a bit of background reading.
So some of your learning then involves a number of people. Yep. And approaches. So obviously that takes a bit of thought.
That takes a bit of thought and planning, and I call it a project type thing. Another example which we might be looking at soon is getting an ultrasound unit into the surgery and getting some learning and some skills behind doing ultrasound scanning as well. Okay. So that's something we're looking at, and so it's another example of a project learning. And then there's opportunistic learning that might come about from having a new patient arrive in the district.
So you have opportunistic learning. You have opportunistic
learning as well. Yes, that's learning which comes up, and you've got to get up to speed quite rapidly, and there's no choice about it. This would be a new patient who arrives in your practice who happens to have some obscure illness which you've never read about or had any experience with before, and you want to obviously be familiar with that type of illness because they're
So it seems to me like with the planned learning, you'll have obviously thought about the why you are going to be doing that learning. You've probably put a bit of a plan together with others to think about the importance of that learning need.
Yes.
And you've identified it obviously with other people to do that. With the opportunistic learning, however, something comes up. How do you go about following up with the learning or evaluating that? Because I would imagine that often these one-off pieces of learning, they'll go by. So how do you capture what you've learned and then use it for later?
I suppose with patients arriving with active problems, you do your research, you come back to the patient, and you're actively managing their situation on an ongoing basis. So the problem travels forwards in time with you, so long as you have ongoing contact with that particular patient. Right. As far as archiving it and processing it away from the patient or away from the patient record, don't really do too much of that, to be honest. It mainly lives within the clinical record and the active problems of the day with that patient.
Okay, so we're here down in Dunedin at GP19. When you come away from here, how are you going to evaluate what you've learnt and think about how to apply it? What's the process for you?
Well, I like to reflect it to my partners. You know, I'm say like the session we've just been to on cultural safety. There's a lot of learnings there. I'll want to run past my partners and get their reflections on these things, and we'll have a bit of a group interpretation of what this means for us as a practice.
Okay, so is reflecting on learning then a crucial part, do you think, of that learning process for you?
It is, and looking at what patient groups could be affected by this new knowledge. Sure.
In terms of what makes good learning, what is a good learning opportunity for you? What does that look like and sound like?
One that occurs when I've got time to to actively engage with it, sample it properly, and actually reflect on it. So something which involves time, action, and good reflection.
Sounds like a really sensible approach, Peter. Finally, have you got any message for your colleagues out there around the value of professional learning and CPD? What would you say?
I'd say that probably the most valuable learning I do is off my mistakes, and that so long as we're prepared to take time to think about the mistakes we've made and try and analyse what went wrong, what did I bring to the table, what circumstances pertained, and take as much learning from your mistakes as possible. I think that's the big thing.
Sounds like a very professional approach. Thank you so much, Peter, for your time.
That's a pleasure. Thanks, Ken.